Now, say my name.
The Rolling Bad Podcast.
You're goddamn right.
Coming to you almost live from the reliquary of Azir, it's the Rolling Bad Podcast, episode number 159. It's April 7th, and I'm your host, Bill Costello. With me today,
Joshua Alt, as always.
Yay! We're here again.
And there's a lot to talk about.
There really is. We actually have a kind of a packed show. You can't miss the elephant in the room. The
mini Raja that I brought?
Yeah.
The literal elephant in the room.
Yeah. But okay. But no, the the announcement that lots of AoS models are going bye-bye. And this is kind of groundbreaking.
It really is. Entire armies. Well, yeah. 2 entire armies gone. A fair amount of Stormcast that, thank God, are gone.
Not enough in my humble opinion, but anyway.
Yeah, I didn't see enough knights in that list. You know?
Yeah.
There's 4 knights or something? I mean, how many knights are in the Stormcast line? 17 or something? I don't know what they actually are, but for every lord, there's a knight. Yeah,
and a redundant knight.
Yeah. It's why do we need a Lord Relictor and a Knight Relictor? Why do we need a Lord Celis? I'm glad that they're really thinning down the line there.
It's going to need more, but we'll get to that when we do it. And also we're going to be, and this is where you need to pay attention, GW, because we're going to fix the lore for the Mortal Realms.
Yeah.
Today.
It's going to happen today.
Yeah, we've been talking about it, but in front of me today, there are no books to review. There are no products to review. So we're hitting the lore hard and heavy.
Yeah, we will.
Yeah.
We've actually at least I have been more active than normal.
Yes, you have.
So it's going to be a fun one to talk about today. But just some things to touch on ahead of time. So you're looking at Forged gaming gear. Talk to me about that.
Okay, so Vic over at Slice and Dice just started carrying this. They went to Gamma. Mm-hmm. Him and Mercedes went to Gamma.
Okay.
And they had no real schedule of things to do other than, look around for product lines that they might be interested in. And one they came across was Forged gaming gear. And they signed up with them. They started carrying their stuff. And to be honest with you, this is some really good stuff. And it's mostly for general gaming and role-playing gaming. Mm-hmm. So a lot of dice towers. They have a really nice folding dice tower that just folds flat. And then when you manipulate it a certain way, it becomes a really nice little dice roller with a tray. But it still packs flat. So that was pretty cool. And they have a very hard-sided dice tower along with a dice keeper if you're a big role player. But a lot of this stuff has application for what we do as well.
Yeah. So
that folding dice tower could be real handy for an AoS game.
Oh, no doubt.
Real handy.
No doubt.
If they use dice in 4.0, I'm not sure if they do. I'm kidding. They do. Maybe.
At least for the priority roll.
But yeah, I mean, I've bought a couple of things now from Forged Gaming, and they're actually pretty quality items, and I like what I see.
Yeah.
So anyway, just throwing that out there for anybody that is in the market for either RPG stuff or stuff to help your games of AoS, 40K, all that stuff. So I gotta say, I want to hit one thing before we go any further.
Uh-huh.
I had a meeting yesterday morning, and it extended into the time where I could leave to get to the Games Workshop store to get my pre-orders in for the new Kill Team box and the new Warcry box.
Yeah.
And I was like, dadgummit. So about 15 minutes before 11, which is, when it opens up in our time.
Yeah.
I jump on the website and the queue is up. And I'm like, oh my God. I just got so hosed. So I jumped in the queue just for the heck of it.
Yeah.
Holy damn. 11 o'clock, I was 3 minutes from being served. Whatever. And I logged on. I was able to get both the Warcry and the Kill Team box. I was blown away.
Holy cow.
Yeah. And I know that Kill Team box was out of stock almost immediately. And how I got it is beyond me. I was 5 minutes after 11. And then from what I understand, that thing sold out in the first 5 minutes. So I was part of the problem. So yeah, I was just like, holy crap. It actually worked as advertised for once. Holy damn.
Yeah, I knew that box was going to fly off the shelf. I mean, Night Lords and the, oh my God, what are those little green dudes called?
Yes, the other guys in the box.
Yes,
do
the other
they
ones.
matter? I mean, do they matter?
If you're Dark Eldar, yeah.
Okay. It was what's his name? The Mandrakes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They look so cool.
I'm really looking forward to both of those kill teams.
Oh, yeah.
I was flabbergasted that I was able to actually use the system the way it was intended to be used. Couldn't order more than one of each.
Good.
I was like, and I had this moment of, did GW figure this out? Did they make it work? And I really did not think the Kill Team box was worthy of a queue, but I guess they did. Or maybe this was a test for the upcoming AOS 4.0 or something else that's coming out that they really wanted a good, solid test of the queue system.
Yeah.
So anyway, it worked.
Who would have thought that it worked? Well, at least it worked that one time. We'll see if there's, see if that keeps up.
Please, let's make this a trend.
Yes.
Yeah.
One could hope, maybe even pray that it
Maybe
would.
even.
So, wow, okay. And then I got a note here from you on Pathfinder 2E Remastered.
Actually, I was going to save that for After Dark, just for the sake of the regular show. Started doing our first 2 sessions using exclusively the remastered rules from the new Pathfinder. And if you don't know, Pathfinder 2nd Edition just went through not a version change, but basically they remastered it to remove any reference that goes back to the OGL from Wizards of the Coast / Hasbro, so that if there is another fracas like there was with the Hasbro people trying to make gobs of money instead of scads of money, they'd be insulated from it. And the changes are 98% of the changes are happy to glad. It's like, we're going from the alignments are gone, so we're going away from evil and good to holy and unholy. And just there are semantic changes everywhere. The Monster Core book, they've literally eliminated anything that isn't public domain as far as verbiage goes. So the Shambling Mound is now a flippy floppy beast, whatever. So that way they're just completely insulated from. And they've put out their own open game license called ORC. I forgot what it stands for. Open, whatever. It doesn't matter. But it's completely insulated now. And they, along the way, they had the opportunity to fix a few things. Like the disarm rules are fixed now. And, just a lot of different tweaks to the system that just make it so much easier and mo better. So they got rid of all the schools of magic, which were, abjuration, evocation, all that other stuff. Now they have battle magic and, life magic and all this other stuff. It just makes it cleaner and just nicer. So if you're looking for a role-playing game that isn't D&D, for whatever reason that might be, take a look at Pathfinder Remastered. It's much cleaner and better. So,
on a side note, all those language cleanups are why you hire lawyers, folks. So
yes.
Thank your lawyers for Pathfinder 2nd Edition Remastered being completely separate.
Yeah. I mean,
D&D.
It's true. It's crazy that in a niche like role-playing games, even though, D&D is reasonably huge, it's still niche, but you still have to deal with things like this because you have companies out there like Hasbro that have their head shoved so far up the fourth point of contact that they just, if there's a way to monetize something, Hasbro's going to find it.
Yeah.
And, no matter what they did to the Wizards of the Coast reputation, which up until that point had been awesome, except for, some of the don't be a woman in the office, but,
those minor things.
Little things, but really they had a pretty sterling reputation for doing right by gamers. And Hasbro just came along and said, okay, that's great, but how does that make us money?
Yeah.
And they proceeded to say, nope, if you want to play this game, you have to pay us lots more. So, that's way to ruin your, I think Hasbro had no idea what the community would actually say about that.
Yep.
And for the outcry, and, I know that leak was someone in Wizards of the Coast. I know it was them.
Yeah.
Because they were like, this is coming, and the only way to derail this train is for y'all to speak out. And they couldn't just say, hey, look, why don't you guys tell Hasbro about this? So, boom, all of a sudden it got leaked, and now it's not a thing. So anyway,
Pathfinder 2nd Edition. Go take a look at it, guys.
Yeah. But let's go on to the big news.
Yeah. Probably the biggest news AOS has had, aside from an edition change, right?
Yeah.
They're literally nuked 2 armies out of AOS and pulled a whole bunch of other product line out.
Yep.
A lot of which was relatively recent in terms of release, particularly for the Warcry models. But I mean, just starting at the top, the Golden Boys themselves now look to be the Silver Boys, I guess, is going to be the new major paint scheme.
I don't know.
Yeah, but Stormcast Eternals lost so much.
The entire Sacrosanct Chamber is gone.
Gone.
And then from the old lines, regular lines, you got Paladins, Judicators, Liberators, Prosecutors, Gavril Sureheart, Vorus Starstrike, which I don't even know who that is. The Knight, the Errant Questor, who is, the brother of the Knight Questor, who's the cousin of the Lord Questor, who's actually just basically by marriage the brother-in-law of the Lord Celestin Questor.
Yeah.
Come on, guys, stop. Jesus. And I'm only exaggerating a little bit there.
Just actually a little bit.
Yeah. But a lot of those, and for a fact, they've already showed the Liberators. So, and you think about it, the old Liberators are the blocky armor.
Yep.
They're kind of, in this day and age, when they first came out, it was like, wow.
Yeah.
In this day and age, they look very dated.
Yes, they do.
And the new ones look bonkers.
Oh, they look so good.
And
the upgrade on their hammers too, right?
Oh, yeah.
And their shields, not to mention the sleek armor. The sleek armor is sending me, as far as it goes, because, man, the old Stormcast are just thick.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
They are thick boys. There were some girls, but mostly boys.
Yeah.
Right? And the thing is, what they've been doing is also making it so the kits build both male and female models.
Right.
And some of those old ones don't really do that, other than like, oh, I popped a head on this, sequitur. But
or you bought 4 boxes in order to make what you wanted, and that was ridiculous. And the Stormcast range to me was just bloated with things that were not needed. Even when the Soul Wars box came out, it was for the Night Haunt. And opening up a new chamber of Stormcast, even at the time, made you scratch your head and go, why? Where do they fit in? What makes... And so, if you recall, what happened back then was, right about that time, started the changes to the Liberators.
Yeah.
To lessen their usefulness so that Sequiturs would become a thing and Evocators would become a thing. Well, not everybody wanted to play that game. So sure enough, pretty soon, where they didn't put the Liberators back where they were power-wise, they dropped their points to a point to where they became ubiquitous. They were just, you had to take them because they were so good for their points. So at that point, now they have to change that again. And it was this, I don't even think it was the law of unintended consequence. It was them knowingly trying to push the new kits.
Yeah.
And ended up having to basically go through several iterations of nerfs here and there to make it all work. And it still never really has.
Yeah.
That whole chamber, that whole Sacrosanct Chamber has always been kind of they were fun to build around, and they had you could make some really cool army lists with them. But at the same time, the newer stuff came out and completely supplanted them.
Yep.
So they were meaningless, and I do not shed a tear except for the Celestar Ballista, you poopy noses, and really Estrella Soulbright and Aventus Firestrike. They're such good models. Yeah. I'm surprised they're taking that Aventus Firestrike, that bird, the horse with the wings, and him and his pose. It's such a gorgeous model.
It is.
And to see it go by the wayside, that's sad, but understandable. Maybe they open up a new chapter to fight rats. It's I don't know what you would call it, the exterminator chapter.
Well, they always said it's the Ruination Chamber.
Ooh, okay,
Right.
Ruination.
Yeah, they're the ones who are a half step from completely losing their minds because they've been reforged so much.
Gee,
But we have to
shocking.
take heart, folks. Like, so Liberators, it says Liberators are going away, but we know we're getting new Liberator kits.
Right.
In the preview for the new edition, there were still Prosecutors.
Yeah.
Right. So I imagine a fair amount, well, not a fair amount, but at least those 2 units, right, are getting resculpts.
Oh, all of them are going to get revamped in some way.
Yeah.
They're going to have somebody that shoots. So Judicators in some form are coming back.
Yeah. Well, they saw the guys with the swords and bows, and then they didn't get rid of the Hunter chamber that has like the repeating crossbows.
Yeah, those are so fun. Oh,
So I mean, it's a big shakeup, folks. Still, you can still use your models. Come on, you just call it something different.
and you still have a year. I mean, before they go to Legends, you have a year and a half. And in that time, I bet you something's going to come out. I'm just betting. So
Yeah, and you're probably gonna go like, man, I actually really want those new models, so I'm gonna play those instead.
exactly.
But we have whole new rules coming out, so I mean, it's gonna be changing everything. Stormcast had the benefit of never being in resin or metal. They just have older sculpts that they're going to be changing up.
Yep.
Whereas, unlike the Skaven line,
Oh my God.
where almost everything that is going away is either resin or pewter.
Yeah.
I think when we counted, Bill, there's 4 units going away that are in plastic.
Yeah.
Let's see: Storm Vermin, Rat Ogres, Clan Rats. Actually, it's 3.
Rat swarms are plastic, aren't they?
I thought they were resin still.
Oh, are they still resin?
Yeah,
Oh
I
my
mean,
God.
yeah. So everything in the Skaven line that is either resin or pewter is going away.
Bye.
Thank God they're getting rid of the Rat Ogres.
I'm just saying, everything that they're deleting from the Skaven is just wonderful.
Yeah.
Because damn well, we've seen the video. The rattling gun's coming back, and it's going to be boss.
Yeah.
And just all of these kits that are going away are hard to find, hard to source, hard to build and paint, and they're just jokes.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, I love Giselles, love the idea behind them. I'm dying to see what they get replaced by.
Well, we saw them in the preview. They still had rats on top of the wall with long guns. I'd be interested to see what they're going to do with it. I mean,
they're coming.
And they were shooting down prosecutors, folks.
Yes.
I think they're just going to revamp. I thought it was pretty interesting with Clan Rats and Storm Vermin. I mean, their kits are still old worldy.
Yeah.
Right. So I could see them, just put it into the old world stuff because we're going to revamp it. Because we saw new rats in the preview.
Right.
We're going to have that Claw Lord riding that really cool giant rat, So I'll be interested to see how they're going to sort of revamp stuff. And let's be honest. I mean, even though the Arch Warlock has a really cool picture of a kit, it's still in pewter.
Yeah. It's come on, folks. It's junk. And I mean, junk. In terms of what can be done today,
Yep.
what these are going to be replaced by are going to be so much bonkers that no one's going to miss this stuff. And honestly, you can keep using the old ones up until you get the new ones. So don't fret that much over the Skaven and the Stormcast.
One thing I was thinking of that they might end up doing, because they have that. I mean, we've seen the rattling gun. If you've seen the leaks, you've seen the sprue, right? I imagine in the launch box, it's going to build just as a rattling gun.
Yeah.
But I could see them making it a dual or triple kit. So it could be the warp fire thrower or whatever the drill is, right? So that way, when it actually launches full box, you've got mix and match opportunities. But
yeah, and if you look at the way they've been doing things lately, and you can take this all the way back to the 40K Knights, where at one point there was 6 different Knight kits. Now there's, I believe, 2, and from those you can build any Knight you want.
Yeah, it is just 2. If you're not looking at armigers and stuff,
Right?
Just looking at Knights proper, it's 2 boxes.
Yeah, and so you just pick the one you need, and you look at the back, and it shows you what it can build, and it's pretty damn multifunctional. So, and if you're really hot with magnets and what have you, you can basically make it to where whatever Knight you need is what you dress them up as that day.
Yep.
So, moving on to the Bone Splitters.
Goodbye, Bone Splitters.
But okay, fine. The only thing there I'm going to miss is the Savage Orc Boar Boys, but with a little bit of work, those can be made into other things. Everything here, Hedreka's Mad Mob, no big deal. The Savage Orc Big Boss isn't really big anymore.
No.
Not even, he sort of gets lost in a unit. So most of these are, they've either already done better or they will. So
yeah, and everyone was kind of feeling that way because Bone Splitters never got any releases other than like the Mad Mob, right?
Yeah.
But like all this stuff's been around forever. A lot of people use the Bone Splitters to make like snake bites in 40K. Like they're more like used for mods and stuff. And if you have them, you know, like, oh, I love them in Old World, you already have them on their square bases and you're just gonna play them that way, right? Let's not make hay about this. No one's really playing Bone Splitters now in AOS. And I mean, you always have your edge cases, right? There are people who are just like, oh, I love this army so much. I've had them painted and everything. I love the guys with the giant big tooth that run over and stab monsters, right? Like whatever it is. But I think it's time to move on and see what else they can do, right?
Yeah.
And just kind of complicated stuff too with the Big Wah.
Yeah.
Like you get like, you take like one, like it was not the Weird Knob, the Prophet probably.
Yeah, the Prophet, the Urgok Prophet. Yeah.
He just like figure in as this one the one Bone Splitter guy you would take, right?
Yep.
But hey, let's see what they're going to be doing moving forward with Oryx.
That's, it's true. Under the Slaves to Darkness, well, all the original Warcry boxes that had AOS War Scrolls are gone. Now, this does not mean they're gone from Warcry. This means they're gone from their AOS representations.
Yeah, and Conqueror's Ravagers isn't living Underworlds.
Right.
Right? You could still use her in Rivals, right?
Yep.
So you could still play Warcry with these models that you beautifully painted up.
Yeah.
Right? They still will have their Warcry rules. It's very, like, conspicuously absent from the article is them saying it's not a Warcry anymore, right?
Right.
There's no way they would take them out of Warcry.
Yeah.
That
They're
would
just
make
not
sense.
going to factor into the mortal realms. And if you go to Mediocre Hobbies, their YouTube, he's a former GW employee. He spent 15 years with GW. He's got some interesting thoughts about why these things went away, and especially why these original Warcry bands that are slaves to darkness in AOS, why they're going away. And honestly, it's literally because of their bite in the sales.
Yeah.
So, because people are using these to fill out Marauders and fill out other model types. So it's directly impacting sales.
Yeah.
And so, boom, they just stay in Warcry and they do what they do there. And you don't play with them in AOS anymore. I'm sorry if you... I don't mean to be making light of all these changes. If these are hitting you hard and you're angry about it, I don't mean to be saying you're dumb. I just mean that I can see the logic behind everything they're doing.
Yeah.
It doesn't make it better for you, especially if coming up next you play Beasts of Chaos. You're probably a little more than angry right now, and I'm not going to say you don't have a right to be. But you can play them in Old World.
Yeah.
Yay!
Yeah.
After you finish rebasing all of them and getting them ready to rank and flank, which, okay. That's a kick in the gut. That one's a kick in the gut. There's no putting sugar on it.
Well, I said it was a swift kick to the wilds because I've talked about my Beast of Chaos army so many times on this show. I mean, I have so much BOC.
Yeah.
Right. I didn't have like the older sculpts, right?
You spent so much time getting a Herdstone.
Oh god.
So
yeah, special order in the Herdstone, trying to get Dragon Ogres before they launched in the Vanguard.
Yeah.
Like everything was just such a pain in the butt trying to get. But then, like I was thinking back, right? Because hindsight is always 20/20.
It's very, very clear.
When you look back and you see, hey, the only new release that they got in the last 6 years, well, one, they got the Herdstone Endless Spells, okay? And then after that was a Beast Lord.
Yeah.
That was it. Maybe the writing was on the wall the entire time and like I just wasn't really catching on to it, Like same thing when you go back to Bone Splitters.
Yeah.
They didn't have any new releases.
Exactly.
Right?
And I mean, I didn't see this coming.
Yeah.
Nor was I shocked by it. It was one of those, oh, check it out. They're finally, I have been maintaining that they need to cull that Stormcast book for ages. It's just too fat. And there's too many units that overlap and too many heroes, period. Get rid of Get rid of 10 more heroes and you're on track.
Yeah, I remember the book coming out, and because there's so many units in it, the Stormcast books were almost as big as the core rulebook.
Yeah. It's ridiculous. And, it's Space Marines.
Yeah.
For AoS. It's, you look at the size of the index card pack for Space Marines, and you can stack up like 6 other factions next to it, and it's not that tall.
Correct.
So, hello. And I feel bad for people that truly love playing Beasts of Chaos and AoS, and the fact that, they're good in the old world. Maybe you don't want to play old world.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that is a kick in the teeth, but I'm thinking it just doesn't fit into their plan going forward. And there's probably something new on the horizon that will replace this, but they're in a weird spot because with the Skaven coming out as the flagship for 4.0, the God being fully embraced, there's not a lot of place for the Beasts of Chaos to exist in the whole realm of chaos.
Yeah.
They don't really have a good place to slot in and be useful. Lore-wise, I don't mean the game, but there's just not... I can see them moving the story beyond them, and they just became an anchor. And, let's face it, GW's a business.
Yeah.
If these things were flying off the shelf and they were hot sellers, they would not be here. This would not be a thing. So...
Yeah, the amount of time it would take, too, to, like, invest in resculpts for like all the big monsters, all that kind of stuff. I mean, we got the plastic Gorgon, but I mean, that was even in the old world. He always comes with a square base.
Yep.
I have to say, like, looking at it, I mean, what do they represent? They represent like primordial chaos, right?
Yeah.
Like chaos neutral. They were not aligned to any god whatsoever. They just come out of the dark and they hoot and holler and all that stuff. and in a way, like Skaven with the Great Horned Rat ascending, he could be that unaligned, like truly neutral chaos god, right? Because I mean, generally that's what the Skaven are.
Yeah, chaos for chaos sake.
Like the plague, like Clan Pestilence, they always like tag them to Nurgle and stuff, but they didn't worship Nurgle.
Yeah,
they still worship the Great Horned Rat. They just spread disease.
Yeah, they had the similar modus operandi.
Yeah,
but doesn't make them Nurgle.
No, it didn't. I mean, they still have tags to like doesn't affect Nurgle units. Stuff like that, which I get because, I mean, Nurgle's generally immune to disease.
Well, yeah.
But, like, they didn't take Plague Monks off of the Skaven line, right? So, they're staying there. The Plague Furnace is still there.
Yeah.
All the other stuff that says Skaven is still going to have its various clans is still there. How they'll operate, it will be really interesting to see moving forward. But with Beasts of Chaos, like, why do you need 2 factions representing the same thing, right? Is what I'm getting at. So I could see why they went the way of the old world, right? Even though I'm sad that I have a mostly painted Beast of Chaos army.
Yeah. Well, you have something to burn on video.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
You can do a protest and burn it all.
Yeah, I'll do that.
I heard that paint fumes are really good when they're burned. Anyway,
that's why you wear one of those cones like the dogs get whenever they have surgery,
cone of shame,
and you just like hover over it so the vents right in.
Yeah. So, and then last but not least, there was a handful of other models that are also going away. A lot of this stuff is either horrible plastic or resin, but you had the Sylvaneth Branch Wraith, the Saurus Eternity Warden, Valkia the Bloody. One that got me was Scylla Enfingrim. I can see that one going away because with all the replacements now, you can just... Anyway, the Madcap Shaman, which is, I will admit, a model I did not know existed. The Big Boss on Gigantic Spider makes me sad, but it's a beast of a kit.
Yeah.
And Mistweaver Saya. Those all go away till Legends. And okay, on all accounts, I get it. The Saurus Eternity Warden was, even in this latest Battle Tome, an afterthought.
Yeah.
I have one, and I don't care that he's not a thing anymore. Valkia, I always love Valkia the Bloody. I have 2 of her, I think. Again, I just love the story and the model. Would love to see something else. Sure. Okay, great.
Well, for her, if you just go buy a box of Kinnerai from, the daughters, you can make 5 Valkyria the Bloodies.
Exactly.
And it's better. It's not resin.
Yeah.
You can
so much easier.
hit bash it how you want to.
Yep.
Yeah, it's clear why they were doing that. And then skill hasn't really been a thing.
No, not for a while. And especially with all the great Bloodthirsters and Demon Princes now, honestly, shoehorning his roles into another edition to try to make it work would be, just get rid of it. And, you have him, he's all painted up, he's beautiful. Boom, he's a Bloodthirster. Or boom, he's a Demon Prince. Oh, okay, cool.
Hey, there you go.
Yeah, and nobody's going to say anything to you.
That's the thing with AOS, right? It's not like 40K where, you have to have the certain gun on this guy to represent, this certain weapon profile. It's just, and I think that they really accentuated that by showing the new cards, right? Yeah. It's just, okay, so if you got the Liberators, you have, almost everyone has Warhammers.
Yep.
One person has a Great Hammer.
A Great Hammer.
Oh, it's that easy.
Yeah, hello, thank you.
Yeah, so if you're like, I really like my Stormcast with swords, cool. 4 of them have one-handed swords, and the other guy has a two-handed sword. Hey, we got there.
So easy. Yeah. Now the Sylvaneth Branch Wraith, again, icky kit.
Yeah.
Just terrible. Kit bashed it so many times. Ridiculous. So, again, I'm not trying to make light of any of this stuff. I don't think our goal here is to make anyone feel less bad if they got hit by these changes.
Yeah.
The idea here is all of these make sense from a business standpoint, as well as from these really just don't fit going forward, and they're not important to the story. And, you have to hit the bottom line. If these things were selling hot, they would not be here on this article. They're not selling. They're gone.
Well, I will say to all my fellow Beasts of Chaos players out there, right? Make your angry goat noises now.
Yeah.
But then it's time to embrace, the Great Horned Rat.
Yeah. Come to the dark side. We have cookies.
Yeah.
It's that's the only thing that I think is a real kick in the teeth is the Beast of Chaos completely being eliminated as an army from AOS. Now, does it justify the rage that's going on in social media right now? And of course, every GW hater site is like, see, I told you, they hate everyone. They're eliminating entire armies. And, when I see these little taglines that are like, entire armies eliminated from AOS, and I'm like, guys, you're clickbait. The foamers that are already attracted to you are with you.
Yeah.
I guess, you pick up a few every now and then. I don't know. I don't care. It's just, wow, I hate the clickbaity stuff.
Yeah.
But in a lot of, I think Discourse went a little off the rails with her thoughts. But, she's not terribly far off. The feigned outrage was sort of very, very condescending. It's like, wow, I was so married to these, no, really, stop.
Yeah.
You're not even going to think twice. But I don't know. It's just, I think I'll put a clickbait title on this episode. It'll be like, The Death of AOS. So, yeah, maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll try to join that crowd.
Yeah. Hey, let's do it. Is this the end? The death of AOS as we know it.
Oh, I like it. That's going to be the title. Is this the end? The Death of AOS. Okay. Maybe I'll just use that for the After Dark title. But anyway. So, oh boy. So, adventures in building stuff. So, I didn't have a lot of time this last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And when I finally got to sit down and do some stuff, I turned on my compressor, got it almost all the way charged up, when it just completely blew up. I mean, all I heard was just air going everywhere. And, that was fun. I had to replace my compressor because I had dry rot in some of the seals, and then the big metal tube that goes from the compressor to the tank was just completely leaking like a sieve. So I was like, all right, that's it. Time for a new one. So I got this new timber something from Amazon. It was like only $88. It's super quiet.
Yeah.
It's so nice. It's like, but it did take 6 days to come in. I was angry.
6 days, Bill.
Yeah.
Dear
Terrible.
God.
I know.
Right.
Well, Amazon, I'm used to, it's either in the local warehouse, which means I get it the next day,
Right.
or you get it in 2 days.
Yep.
This was 6 days. I'm like, Amazon, that's not what you're here for.
Yeah.
You're here to satisfy my capitalist means.
Yeah.
People, get with it. So, but in the building and a hobbying world, didn't get a whole heck of a lot done. Got a little bit of work done on some conquest stuff, but not much.
Uh-huh.
More purchase than than hobby. Well, they had a couple of really good deals on some 100 Kingdom stuff, so had to do that. What did I actually get on? I painted another Lance of battle mechs, and then promptly gave them away, which is stupid. But it's no big deal. Happens sometimes. Other than that, I didn't get much done. That was about it for me.
I mean, not too bad considering the compressor issue.
Yeah.
I also had a lot of buying.
Yes, you did. I was there.
Yeah, my Sorcerer King's pre-order came in. I was able to snag up that mini Raja. Someone was selling it on eBay.
Oh, geez,
I was over the moon.
Awesome.
Got the little limited edition Sorcerer. So, I mean, in terms of like painting stuff, I didn't quite hit my deadline that I wanted to for painting up my Pestilence, but I did get the 20 Plague Monks painted, so I guess that's a feat into its own.
Yes, it is.
Particularly, I used the Fanatic paints that Bill gifted me, along with some speed paints from Army Painters and Stroud stuff. God, they work like a dream on the wet palette.
I thought you'd like them. I really did.
I was like, okay, let's do this. I really like the they call it like a stone color, but it's like a cream color. Like I loved using that, doing different blends with the skin tones. And I have to say the effects paints, I have only used the rust so far. I'm about to use the ooze to make them a little more pestilence-y.
Yeah.
But that fresh rust is a dream.
Yep.
It goes on super bright, I mean, for rust. But then when you just wash it down, with like, I use their, Pallid Bone?
Okay.
Speed paint to wash over it.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that would dry, just create like slightly darker spots in places. It's just amazing. I'm really, really digging those paints.
One of the, I'm going to jump in real quick, is there's so many different ways to do rust, but one of the best ways I've ever seen, and they seem to have embraced it, is you just start out with this garishly bright rust and then knock it down to the points that you want, where it's really hard to, it's harder to build up rust from like a dull orange through a red orange up through a yellow orange to represent fresh rust. It's really hard to make that work, whereas you can take the really bright and you can knock it down as much as you need, either with null oil or strong tone, whatever your wash of choice or your speed, your contrast paint of choice is. So easy to knock it down. Yeah. And I think that's where they really went with the rust was, we'll start out as garishly bright as we can, and then you just knock it down to where you like.
No, I agree with that. And with that, then you can just use the fresh rust again to hit like a little highlight here and there. And it just looks beautiful because, after talking with Bill about my paint scheme, because I was talking about, do I do the purple or do I do the rust? Mm-hmm. Went with the rust, 100%. They've got like cream color, dark bone-ish, like sick bone for their robes. And then, what I actually did, because I really liked how it went over it. So I used the Crusader speed paint skin tone.
Oh, yeah.
And I was playing with that. So I layered that up twice because I did like a modified zenithal, right? And so I layered that up twice onto the skin, right? And then I went over the skin and the cloth with the Pallid Bone, and it makes the skin look sickly.
Yeah.
Right? And so it all like came together as a dream. And it's pretty quick to paint. Nice. Because that was the goal. Is like, I just need to do something super quick. So I was just improvising, right?
Yeah, hordes.
And it came out really well. I used the same process on the Plague Priest to go on the Plague Furnace. I also painted up the Plague Monks that are pulling the ropes on the Plague Furnace. As well as I started the work on the handful of slop on the Plague Claw. And then the little guy that's like walking up to the Plague Claw with a shovel of... So...
Uh-oh.
Then the Grey Seer, that guy too. I'm painting them all in the same process, even though the Grey Seer isn't Pestilence. The like fun little. Side note, I had to tactical rock him a little bit. I got those custom bases that we talked about last time, and I was able to position him just right, so he's standing on the rocks. But the Skaven symbol at the end of his staff, I painted that with rust too.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
And I just think it looks really good. And then we go back on all the things I want to be metallic. I am going to go back over with Warplock Bronze.
Yeah.
Right. And kind of maybe get a little verdigris on those, but just so like they're rich, right? With just a little bit that you could see from the tabletop. Then in the world of Conquest, so I built my mini Raja.
Yes.
Built my Sorcerer. Then my pre-order came in. So I got a normal Maharaja, a box of Ifrit Flamecasters, and then the one-player starter set, which has 2 goals, 2 Rajakar, 1 box of Ifrit Flamecasters / Sword Dancers, and the Raj is the hero. And I brought them here so Bill could see them. I mean, like, these sculpts are...
They're so gorgeous.
They're beautiful. Beautiful. They really outdone themselves. I really feel like they captured the aesthetic.
Yes.
On all of them.
They nailed it. Their ability to sculpt and turn out models is getting to be on par with the best of them.
Yeah.
I mean, just those resin models are just phenomenal. But then the plastics they're great. I'm really super excited for Parabellum and where they're going. And I just, I hope Conquest takes off a little more than it has, because it is such a good game.
Yeah.
Such a really well done rule set. It's just, it just doesn't get the exposure that something like the Old World gets. And by and large, Conquest is just a far superior game.
Oh,
if you want to play the game. Now, if you want to be measuring every angle and, doing all the GW type things, yeah, it's a great game. Old World is a great game. I mean, you can tell there have been tournaments, so it's widely accepted, but Conquest is every bit as good or better in many, many respects, in that the rules work.
Yeah.
Let's just drop that there.
And moving on. Did you get any games in though, Bill?
You know what? No. I got one MCP game, which was brutal. It was not funny at all. It was the New Avengers with a borrowed Spider-Man.
Uh-huh.
And just, let me see, who did I take? I took Natasha, Spider-Man, Iron Man, excuse me, I said Spider-Man. Let me see, who was it? It was Iron Man, Black Widow. I had Nick Fury. I had, oh God, I forgot who I even had, but it was going up against X-Men Blue.
Uh-huh.
And the idea was to test out Kitty Pryde and what's his name? Nightcrawler.
Yeah.
Well, I can draw no conclusions from that game whatsoever, because it was a comedy of errors for the X-Men.
Was it?
It was bad. It was just not funny. Just everything went wrong. Whenever he would roll the dice and need like a wild trigger, he would not get it.
Oh.
And then when he just didn't want to roll skulls, there's 4 skulls. It was just everything that could go wrong did, to the point to where, after you're done playing the game, you don't feel like you really won.
Yeah.
You just feel like the other guy diced himself to death.
Yeah.
And I had incredibly average rolls with everyone. But when you're going up against somebody who can't even flip a terminal, rolling their Mystic Defense with 4 dice.
Oh my God.
And they can't flip it. You're just like, at some point, this has got to be disheartening.
Yeah.
But didn't want to quit. Didn't want to, I'm like, we can re-rack it and start over and change dice, or just go buy new dice, or, whatever. Nope. Let's keep going. So it was a pickup game over there at, what's the name? Slice and Dice.
Yeah.
But, it was fun. And seeing Nightcrawler basically be wherever he wanted to be was fun. I mean, that was really cool to see him just bamfing all over the place.
Yep.
His biggest drawback was he just can't take a punch. He cannot take a hit. And it's sad. It's very sad. And made much worse by the fact that when you're rolling defense and you're doing that badly,
yeah,
it just doesn't help. It doesn't help. And I would had I been the other guy, I would have been pissed. I would have been literally pissed. He had a lot more, he was a lot calmer than I would have been with that set of dice.
Yeah.
And I even offered, dude, I've got a lot of spare dice in my bag.
Yeah.
Do you want another set? No, we're good. Okay. I'm sorry, but I've done everything I can.
You're like, all right, homie.
And then I did play another game that I do want to shout out a little bit. We'll probably talk more about in After Dark, but there's a game that has come out called Burning Banners from Compass Games. Again, it's a war game company. And Burning Banners is more of a war game than a, general use tabletop board game. But talk about a blast. Talk about just crazy fun. Because it's a 50% war game and 50% fantasy setting where you're doing all this crazy stuff.
Yeah.
And every scenario in the game, they call them campaigns, they're scenarios, whatever you want to call them. But there's different factions involved.
Okay.
And so you get to play all of them. And they all play very asymmetrically. They're all very, very different.
Oh, cool.
Some of them use their economy in incredibly different ways. Like everybody has an income level, which they use to build new units. Plus, like if you take a town or a settlement or a village or a city, you get, an influx of money to buy new units to use immediately that turn. Whereas like the orcs faction and the goblin faction, they don't have any income. They don't develop. They literally sack things. And so they get a bonus whenever they sack stuff. But when you're playing them, if you're not taking villages and taking settlements, you're out of money really quick and you're not keeping up. And they're harder to play, but they're so much fun.
Yeah.
So it's a really neat game. If you see it and you're into, sort of board games and war games, Burning Banners is phenomenally good. And the production value of the game, I have to say, is beyond anything I have seen yet. It is so well done, even down to every single player board is dual layer. So when you're lining up all your stuff, it's not flying all over the place. Oh, it's just slicker than, it's awesome. It is awesome. Let's take a quick break, and then we will come back, and we're gonna fix AOS.
Real quick, though, I did have one game I want to talk about.
Wow. What a rude. Oh, man. Anyway, how about your games, Josh? Which is what I meant
Bill's
to
so
say.
used to me being like, I didn't do... So I'm part of this like little crusade group. We meet infrequently, and we just really started getting set up. So I had my first game in the crusade. My buddy Keneal is actually writing the narrative for it, right?
Cool.
And we have this whole thing on Discord. I got matched up. So I'm playing Iron Wolves, right?
Okay.
What does that mean? It means I'm playing the Iron Storm detachment as Space Wolves, so I can use Space Wolves dreadnoughts, right, in it. So my list was comprised of my warlord, who was a tech marine. My other foot hero was a tech marine. And then I had Bjorn and Murderfang.
Of course, as you do.
As you do, as one does. I had and we're at 1,000 points starting. Redemptor Dreadnought, Space Wolves Venerable Dreadnought that had the Hellfrost Cannon, and Bjorn did too. And then a Wolfen Dreadnought. I was going up against World Eaters, right?
Why was he there? The World Eaters player?
Well, it's funny because we hadn't sent lists yet, and so like, okay, we're meeting up to. He's like, here's my list, by the way. He's like, cool, and I sent him mine. He's like, I think I need a new list.
I quit.
So we get there, right? And I'm like, I don't want to discount it because let's be honest, World Eaters are pretty swingy, and he had 2 units of Exalted 8-bound, and those guys can just smash, right?
They have to get there, though. That's the issue.
Well, I mean, they have like an 8 or 9 inch movement, and then he was constantly getting the plus 2 inch movement. Regardless, so his list, he had 5 Berserkers with a Master of Executions and a Rhino. He had a Defiler. He had 1 little unit of Cultists, 1 unit of 3 Exalted 8-bound, and a Lord of Jug with some Exalted 8-bound, right? So pretty fighty, right? If he can get stuck in, it'd be good. The thing for me that was going to be an issue, though, was like, how do I hold objectives, right? Because 2 of my models don't hold objectives because of Murderfang and Yeah, so I literally had to have a tech marine like usher up Murderfang and the Wolfen Dread and just stand on objective, so I had some OC on it. But the game is starting, and like he got first turn, was playing KG, and I was like, "You're world leaders. This is narrative.
Don't be cagey.
You need to run at me, right? Otherwise, I'm going to come at you, and it's probably not going to go as well because I've got better long range and I've got fight." So turn 1, the Redemptor Dreadnought blew up the Rhino. Just I just rolled so hot with the plasma, and it just I got through 4 3 damage each shots. He's like, "How much damage is that total?" 12. And he's like, "Okay, let's see if I blow up."
Yeah, exactly. Oh well.
Yeah, none of the guys died coming out, unfortunately. That would have been fun. And then he had like tried to shuffle his Defiler out of the way, but like I could still see it. So Bjorn, this was the thing with Bjorn the entire game. I did the single shot Hellfrost, but I had my Tech Marine there that had the enhancement that makes 6s to hit lethal hits, so they auto wound. So every time he shot the Defiler, it auto wounded. It was just like 6. Brand new dice, by the way, because I forgot my dice. I was just like, holy hand grenades. This is exactly what I need to see happening right now. Yeah, so it was funny. The Redemptor just decimated it the first turn, right?
God.
Bjorn took 5 health off the Defiler. Then the next turn, I had the Redemptor just pump into the Defiler, right? Did 3 damage total. And then Bjorn killed it.
Yeah.
Bjorn was just like,
"Oh my God.
You young pup." Bam. The thing that was just brutal. So I lost 1 model the entire game. That model was Murderfang. After Murderfang killed 6 Exalted 8-bound and his Warlord.
Oh my God.
Like he was taking some licks in there, but oh my God, Murderfang is, well, they call him the Murder Maker for a reason. You're like, okay, I charge and I attack you. Then he attacks back. Then I attack again, and the unit's gone.
Yeah.
And he unfortunately had like set up his units like not in the best way for him, right? So first time I charge in, I wipe out the Exalted 8-bound, right? But then since I wiped them out, I consolidate into contact with his Warlord and the other 8-bound. They attack, they get through a few wounds, and then Murderfang kills all 3 of the Exalted 8-bound. Then we go to his turn, and he shoots his pistol at Murderfang in the shooting phase.
What?
And I was like, okay. And then he kills the Lord on Juck. It was like, that was probably a tactical error. But then he charged in, and this was, narratively speaking, amazing. He charges in with his Berserkers, and one of the Berserkers, because he mods all of his stuff, right? Which is just amazing. The one with the Eviscerator, right, is a Space Wolf. And so they throw all the attacks from all the Berserkers. I mean, he was re-rolling like crazy. Murderfang was tanking a whole bunch of it, right? And then the Eviscerator came through and killed him to the wound. And I was just like, Space Wolf lock eye with Space Wolf.
Yeah.
And I wrote this whole like narrative write-up for it. It was so fun. But I mean, at that point, he had, I think, like 6 cultists and then that Master of Executions and like 5 Berserkers and 4 other Dreadnoughts pointing their guns.
Yeah.
So the Redemptor got revenge. Whoopsies. So I think I won that like 100 to 45 just because I was hot on my dice rolls for shooting. It was a fun game. It was a really fun game. Like for a narrative game, it had huge moments. I mean, like Murderfang charging in and ripping through stuff and then like them fighting back. It was just primo for writing the story. In fact, so he wrote the like battle report write-up. Yeah. And then he let me do the narrative write-up. But I wrote it from the point of view of the Space Wolf Berserker.
Oh, Jesus.
Right? Because I thought that would give it like that fun little alien thing where like, because it was just talking about iron and rage, you know, like something he can understand, but like, and then having that moment when he kills Murderfang where like they lock eyes and it's sort of like Murderfang nods at him, you know, like that's the time to do it.
Yeah.
Right? And it was like, what is it? The reference to the plasma shooting at him was like pure light. And he's the only one that survives, right? Yeah. The battle, wakes up just bruised and, you know, grabs his Eviscerator and has all these flashbacks. It was a fun little like narrative write-up.
Nice.
Won that handily. And since, you know, as a epic hero that that fell. I didn't even have to do any like casualty rolls or anything. I was just like,
Jeez.
give me all the experience.
Just give me the stuff.
It was a fun game. It was a fun game. I like it. That's why I like narrative games so much, because then you're not sitting there trying to like, oh, I have to do every single thing right. So I told him like, well, I know you're not charging me, but I'm coming for you.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a space wolf. I have my shooty guys over there, but Murderfang's coming for you.
Yes.
That's what he does.
Yeah.
Right? He's going to move at you, and he's going to make murder. It was a good time. It was a good time. But yeah, that was my battle. So
Cool.
All right, we'll take a quick break, come back, and as Bill said earlier,
Yeah.
we're going to fix AOS.
Yeah, it's easy.
The story.
Just
That
watch.
is.
And now for something completely different.
So here we are getting ready to fix the lore of AOS. But before we fix it, I think we kind of have to talk about what's broken about it.
True.
Because otherwise people are going to be like, dude, it's not broke.
Yeah.
And we maintain that it is.
Uh-huh.
And here's why. Here's a couple of things that sort of bug us about the lore in AOS. And honestly, I think the biggest part here is I haven't been invested in the AOS lore since version 1.0 when it was all kind of new and they were starting fresh.
Yeah.
And at that point, it was reasonably interesting. Since then, honestly, nothing has caught my attention in AOS with the exception of the dwarf and the, what's his name? The, oh dear God, I can't think of her name now. She had a show on Warhammer Plus, Nev Black Talon.
Yeah.
That was interesting. Of course, you know, the dwarf story is kind of cool just because of the throwback nature and the conjecture of it all.
Yeah.
But quite literally, the lore, I don't care about it because none of it is impactful to the mortal realms as a whole.
Yeah.
And because the mortal realms are so infinitely huge, when you tell me that this is happening at Hammerhall Gyra and it has huge import to the surrounding 60 miles
Yeah.
in a mortal realm that's 1 billion miles wide by 1 billion miles tall, why do I care if Hammerhall lives or dies?
Yeah.
There'll be another city that pops up next week.
Yeah.
And it'll be just as important to the people that live there. It's this double-edged sword that you get into when you're writing. And honestly, this is really kind of almost like a fanfic problem, which you wouldn't think they would have. But they literally tried to go so big in scope to give them freedom to operate things that the incredible immensity of your scope now says that nothing matters.
Yep.
Oh, there's this huge thing going on in the Great Parch. Well, the Great Parch is 1/centillionth of that realm. And, you know, if something really bad happens there, 99.9% of even that realm doesn't give a damn.
Yep.
And the other realms literally could care less.
Yeah.
And when you try to shoehorn gods into this, okay, so Kragnos raised this city and then moved on, and he's going to tear across the mortal realm. Okay, bye. See ya. Have fun storming the castle. You know, it's why do I care if he destroys 15 cities? There's 28 more just like it.
I like how you put fanfic nature of it, right? Because there used to be a unifying story, right? And that was in 1.0, right?
Yeah.
Actually, there was at one point a book series, believe it or not,
Yeah.
in the Age of Sigmar, right? Dealing with, you know, the fight against chaos.
Yeah.
And so it seemed like they kind of knew they're doing, because that's very much like what we see in 40K, or at least in 30K, I should say, the Horus Heresy, is that they had focus on a single storyline with import for the entire universe.
Yes.
Right? But if you look at how they've been doing these cycles since, right, is that they'll release an edition. There'll be some interesting stories here and there. And then they really just try and do a narrative cap at the end of every edition, right? Broken Realms, right? And now the Dawnbringers, right?
Yep.
Thing is, as we've seen, like if we look at back to Broken Realms, yeah, there was some good stuff there, and it made it seem like, oh, okay, Nagash just got his butt whooped, right? He got thrown down. Now Kragnos is rising up, right? What are the implications? Absolutely nothing, right? The only real ties between what happened at the end of second edition and what's going on in third edition is that Alariel's still a character. Yeah. Like, literally, that's it.
Yeah, it's kind of, it's so, and you did it to yourself by making these things so impossibly huge. You've just made it to where the events at a certain area are of little importance to the realms as a whole.
Yeah.
And yes, you can do shocking things, like you can have Nagash take a dirt nap for, a while. Okay, that's great. And then did you follow up on that storyline? No. You've already shown his war scroll for 4.0.
Yeah.
And he's Nagash. He's not whooped down. It's just, okay, I no longer care. If Gabriel Sherhart, the former cool dude, if something happens to him, sorry, I don't care. He's just one more golden boy in a sea of golden boys.
Yeah.
And you've made it to where I can't give a damn about him. Now, you've taken Nave Blacktalon, and you've not only made her a point in almost every edition and given her something to do, and then boom, all of a sudden you gave her a little animated movie. I do care about her. I want to see her do well. There isn't a single other character in all of the lore that I can think of that I'd be like, oh, something happened to him. Oh, that's bad. Or, yeah, that's cool. He's doing stuff. Even to the point of Archeon, I could give a damn about, because you've downplayed him so much and you've made so many things happen without him having any input that he's an afterthought now. He's the guy that, I don't know, a while back he made the whole, world explode. And, now he's just a dude. He's probably Fat Thor or something,
I mean, the way that they described Archeon's power in the Broken Realms, right? When they were assaulting the 8 points and he had to go away from unleashing Slanesh on the mortal realms, right? And how he shows up and it literally rains blood, and all those things. That you're like, this dude, he's mortal, or he was, right? And he's ascended to this an insane level of power, right? Where you're like, who can stop him?
Yeah.
Who could actually stop him? Gods can't.
Right.
Right? Literally, Sigmar couldn't. And that's how the world got obliterated.
Yeah.
But he's not the main character.
Yeah.
Well, it's Age of Sigmar, so certainly Sigmar's the main character. No, you don't see him. He just occasionally opens a chamber, which, by the way, I love when they made fun of themselves when they had that animation, and he's like, boop, open that new chamber. But
open it. That's not the answer. Yes, it is.
And sure, it's sort of a flavor of the week kind of thing where you're like, I like these characters for whatever reason, aesthetics or what have you. But there's not a character other than what we've seen. And I think you point out Neve really well, because they actually drilled down and gave you something to care about.
Yeah.
There's no one we care about.
And, it's simply because, and especially in the Stormcast world, they have made death so non-permanent.
Yep.
It is, in the Stormcast world, death is just a part of being a Stormcast. You're not even cool until you've been reforged 15 times.
Right.
It's at a certain point when you make death meaningless, you take any impact out of any story for me. And as you kill off these the occasions where you kill off a big character and then they show up the next week, full strength, that really hurt. That was really bad, but I'm okay now. And you basically remove any impact. There is no sense of danger. It's like playing D&D where you're always going up against level 1 monsters. After a while, yes, you're going to level, you're going to go up, but there's zero challenge in it. There's zero, I do not feel like I'm included in this story, nor do I feel like I can care about anything going on in the mortal realms, because nothing's important except those things that I've created for my narrative world.
Yeah.
And no matter what you do, you can't play in my narrative world, GW, because you can't even find where it is on the map. It's too small.
Yeah.
And you'd never know where I put it. And
they don't care about your crazy zealot priestess in Akshi because they are nowhere near that, right?
Yeah, this big crusade that's going on, you're talking about them traveling miles in a mortal realm that's billions of miles to the edges. Why do I care about the Dawnbringer? Well, they have to establish these new outposts. Why? What's it going to do? Oh, we expanded another 100 miles out. Whoa, yay, we're huge now.
Yeah.
No, you've basically told me that these things are limitless, and the foothold that you've just carved out is now maybe 1,000 miles wide. Okay. Meaningless. Absolutely meaningless. In the world you created.
Yeah.
So I don't care. I'm not invested at all.
It's tough. And one of the things is whenever they want something to resolve in whatever brief storyline they have near the end of an edition, it's literally a Deus Ex Machina.
Yeah.
Right? Like, Kragnos is assaulting the city. Okay, so Marathi showed up.
Yeah.
And then, like, was it Croak?
Yeah.
Confused him and he went through a portal. Like, cool. Glad that happened, I guess.
Yeah, okay, great, because now the city didn't fall, but it's going to fall in 3 weeks anyway, but it doesn't matter. You've eliminated any impact, and by not having any investiture by my feelings, I don't read AOS lore anymore because none of it matters. It's just, it comes down to whether or not it's a well-written story. And again, that it's so hit or miss in the AOS world as to whether or not you get a good story from a good author that I'm not willing to sit there and shell out the money for these books because chances are it's a 50-50 shot whether the book's going to be any good.
Yeah.
And I know I can read other series that are just going to be good, period.
Yep.
So inside the Black Library world, I'm not even saying leaving Black Library and the GW environment. So that, in a nutshell, is the problem that we see. So we got together and we sat around at Matucci's and we had dinner, which was Italian chicken, fried chicken.
Italian fried chicken.
And
ooh, so good.
Yeah, those freaking truffle fries are to die for. So if you're local and you haven't gone to Matucci's, do it now.
Do it now.
Yeah. But anyway, if you're not local, just blow that off.
Yeah.
So basically, what we kind of came up with is, and this is one of a myriad of options, I'm sure. The idea here is to slice the mortal realms into these little pie shapes. Not very big pie shapes, a few 1,000 miles long at the most, probably less than 1,000 miles, like little Trivial Pursuit pieces.
Yeah.
And take a little chunk out of each mortal realm, pull it up and out of where it exists and put it on a separate plane of existence. And that's complete with the cities, the inhabitants, the monsters, the people, everything that's part of that realm gets chunked into that and squish them all together and put them on a plane. Now, make what happens there important. And honestly, if you need to have like an outer world type god do this, something that's above the Chaos Gods and above Sigmar, then do it. Then just make it work. But pull these things out, make the whole thing smaller, and maybe it only exists for 10 years at a time. And then there's another chunk taken from a different area. But now, all of a sudden, the people that are in those chunks that are now fighting from people from other realms, they're fighting against this thing that's happened to them that they cannot possibly fathom. Now, all of a sudden, their stories matter. And you extend that by saying whatever happens on this demi-plane affects the rest of the mortal realms. So if all of a sudden the people from Shaman get real strong and real powerful and start to expand and take over and establish a city in, say, the Gur, what used to be the Gur region, now that has an impact in the mortal realms.
Yeah, so there's this plane, like some cataclysmic event. Obviously, there needs to be some external source that causes it, because the gods of the mortal realms themselves should not be able to, at first, even fathom what's occurring, right? yeah, they would need to be alert to it, right? But literal, like even part of Azir, right, gets torn off and slammed into this.
Yeah.
And I would also say too is that like there's permadeath in this place.
Yes.
Right.
Stormcast don't go zipping back to Azir. It's not there. It's not above them anymore.
Yeah, and imagine how like amazing that first scene would be where some guy charged in the battle and like gets his head cut off and everyone's waiting for him to get ripped back and he doesn't.
And nothing happens.
And then the Stormcast start to feel mortality again.
Yeah, and they start looking around going, oh crap, we have to change our tactics.
Yep.
Because if we can die, we can't just be as stupid as we have been for the past 3 ages.
Yeah.
And oops, you might have to learn tactics, Stormcast. Wow.
Yeah, and certainly like the undead could still like raise up zombies and stuff like that. But you know, like I don't know, when you put down the vampire lord, Nagash can't bring him back.
Right.
They're gone.
Gone.
And whatever this event, like some central event occurring, right, within this chunk of all the mortal realms together has literal consequences. And outside, like in there, you establish main characters, characters that you follow through this process that you learn to care about, right?
Yes.
Like if you just want an easy one, right? Neve gets stuck in there, right? Because everyone already loves her.
Exactly.
Right? And her crew, you know, then one of her crew gets cut down and don't come back. And then it's like,
oh, crap.
Right?
Yeah.
And so you can have a main character, other main characters from different factions and stuff that you actually care about. And at first it's like, what the heck's going on?
Yes.
Right? Everyone else in the actual mortal realms, right, are just like, why is there nothing here where there used to be?
Right.
And it's, you know, outside agents, you know, investigating, trying to figure that out. And once they do figure it out, it's not like the gods can just be like, hey, yeah, let's go over there real quick.
Yeah, let me just jump up to that new plane. And no, you can't. It's pretty much walled off. And this is why we said you might need to bring in and, you know, maybe whatever the Slan are up against is doing this.
Yeah.
And maybe Croak can be like, I told you something like this was going to happen. You didn't listen.
Right.
But yeah, you know what? Croak, being almost a god, can't go there.
Yeah.
Now, maybe, just maybe, Alariel and Archeon and Sigmar, maybe they can send an avatar into that world. But if that avatar gets punked, it's punked.
Yeah.
And it's out. And maybe it takes a supreme effort to do that. Even Nagash shouldn't be able to just, whatever, I'm going there. And if I get punked, I'll just be back in a week. And same thing, the Skaven can't just, oh, we did a warp hole and we are there now.
Yeah.
Okay. That would it would invalidate the idea of giving me an area of the mortal realms that I can care about.
And I think work with me on this, right? Because how it would relate to even how they would do things in the game, right? Is that they would have events that occurred, which would probably culminate in a grand narrative situation. Right?
What?
Where all the efforts of the different players, right, get recorded and reported.
Yeah.
Right? And that affects it. So at first it's like you're trying to figure out what's going on. Then you're trying to establish contact, right, with home base. Yeah. And depending on the results, around the world as this is going on, whoever establishes contact, right, is able to actually gain advantage, right? And it all comes down to what the final, thing will be, and we're not going to expose what we think that should be, right? But story-wise, right, and there's precedent for this, like with Vigilus, right, and what they did with 40K.
Yeah.
Like that was so awesome, what they did, and how it changed everything. And that was the two parts, right? So you had the first Vigilus book, right, but then all the stuff that was reported, right, affected the larger narrative when people went to it. And that has an actual, true, lasting impact in the game. I mean, like, imagine, because they can make models for whoever the main characters are if they don't already have them.
Sure.
Right? You're fighting alongside Neve Black Talent, and you have, a GM or someone controlling her, and it's sort of like an escort quest where you need to defend her. Because if she gets to the place, then she's finally going to be able to allow Sigmar to enter into this, pocket realm or something, right? In order to help fight the big bad,
Or even to give them a period of time where they can reforge, which would be incredibly impactful. That would be the time that they have to go on the offensive hardcore.
Yeah.
And that window of opportunity is only going to exist for so long. But again, it gives me a investment in all of a sudden now, if you do establish a city, and this is, and let me hearken back to why did the old world work, where the mortal realms have kind of fallen flat in my opinion anyway, because we cared about the old world. What happened in Bretonnia had impacts all over the world. If Bretonnia had fallen, if Kislev fell, it would have impacted the entire world. And there were battles, there were events, there were things that did, and I'm talking about long before the end times.
Yeah.
There were things that shook up the world that mattered, that had people talking for weeks, going, what in the hell? Whereas, this is what I feel, this is what we feel needs to happen, is you have to have some events have impact. Right now, the Dawnbringer Crusade has zero impact on the mortal realms as a whole. And I don't care. A Dawnbringer Crusade in an area that's maybe, I don't know, and I'm just using distance as a bellwether here, not as a determining factor.
Yeah.
But in a plane of existence that's 1,000 miles by 1,000 miles, a Dawnbringer's Crusade that carves out a chunk that's 200 miles wide is a huge impact to how that world operates.
Yep.
And that means everybody from the Fire Slayers all the way up to the Stormcast are going to be affected by this.
Yep.
And not only that, but Joe, the cobbler in the city, is going to be affected by that.
Yep.
And you can tell me a story about Joe as he goes from humble cobbler to heroic defender of the city during the, I was going to say Bone Ripper Assault, or the
Bone Splitter
Bone
Assault.
Splitter Assault, but I won't. During the Ark Assault, he becomes a hero, and all of a sudden, Joe the Cobbler is now Joe the freaking hero that I can get behind.
Yeah.
And, if you kill him off, great, as long as it's a cool death.
Yeah.
Or he could just, when you decide that it's time to end this pocket realm and start up a new one, because this gives you all kinds of ways to tell new stories.
Yeah.
Additions. And, Joe goes back to the bigger mortal realms, and the people that are from this place not only know Joe and they think Joe's amazing, but the rest of the mortal realms are like, did you even know what Joe did? Joe is amazing.
Yeah.
And we need Joe for president.
Yeah.
And it's just now all of a sudden you're going to start to have characters that have an impact. You're going to have stories that have an impact, as opposed to, Johnny the Chaos Lord is on a crusade across the deserts of Akshi. Well, he'll be on that for the next 350 years. So
yeah.
I'll tune in anytime, figure out what he's doing. No, give me something manageable that I can get behind, characters that I can enjoy and care about, because what they do matters. Again, something that I've always beefed about in AoS is how some gods have models and they can play on the table.
Yeah.
And other gods are only represented by vague ideas.
Yep.
And some of them are represented by dogs like Sigmar. But because the dogs are more impactful and smarter. But honestly, if you now just think of the models you can make, and you don't have to make Sigmar the AoS model and give him rules that make him work as Sigmar. Now, all of a sudden, you can make a model that is the avatar of Sigmar. Like the old, what's his name? I can't remember, the guy with the swirlies. Whatever. Yeah. But you can make a model now that it will represent the fraction of godlike power that Sigmar can project into this realm. And the Alariel model can be the fraction of what she can put into this.
Yeah.
Same thing with Nagash, and all the other godlike characters can be represented, and you don't have to give them roles that make you think, well, this is a god, it should be incredibly tough. No, they should all be just reasonably better than the best Stormcast.
Yeah.
Because you can't throw everything you have into this. It's simply not allowable.
Well, you think to it too, like with how these gods are represented on the tabletop, right? I mean, to be honest, Nagash can be killed by 20 angry rats.
Yeah.
Right? It can happen under the current rules. So is that godlike?
Is Alariel a featured choice in any Sylvaneth army that you know of? Other than if you're playing a narrative thematic army themed around Alariel, do you see a lot of people taking her?
Not since Belthanos came out.
Yeah, no.
And what I think that how this could actually relate to the game is that you don't have to make new models, right? It's not Nagash, it's the avatar of Nagash.
Right.
That's what's actually entering the battlefield.
Yeah,
because the gods should be so properly powerful, right? That if you were to actually try to represent their real selves on the battlefield, it would not be possible.
You should have one model and everybody else has an army.
Yeah.
And that god should win. Just, it bugs me that Alariel's on the table and you cast her as a god. And on the table, her best use is as a healer.
Yeah.
It's just, okay, she's not a god. She's just a cool character with an awesome beetle.
Technically, it's what she does in the story right now. So
it's true. Yeah,
maybe.
I mean, they've really lost track of, and that's the whole thing is Alariel should be godlike. Mm-hmm. And in some parts of the lore, you cast her as godlike. And in other parts of the lore, you cast her as just a really cool branch witch.
Yeah.
And it's like, guys, do you even know where you're going? And, I hate to say it, but it's a thing. I think when Phil Kelly left, a lot of that cohesive thought train left with him. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that I don't think they have a great plan for where the AOS lore is and going. And frankly, as big as the Mortal Realms are, you can't tell a story big enough to encapsulate it.
No.
And you set that stage. So take this opportunity, make the stage a buttload smaller and make me care about it. Give me something to care about. Give me a rogue band of adventurers that I can follow through some of their adventures and care about. And when one of them dies, I can go, oh man, that sucks. But because right now, you could wipe out the entire Dawnbringer Crusade in a sentence in the next book, and I literally would care less.
Yeah.
I just what they do is so meaningless. I don't care.
And I know that what they try and do with these, we're expanding the story is just to expand product line, right? And here's kind of a story that goes with this model that we just came up with for the New Cities of Sigmar book, right? This chick's crazy. She's got a wheel of some sort that's like a power that's never been heard of before.
Yeah.
And God knows where she's getting it from. Because even though she's supposed to be like a Sigmarite priestess, it's not very Sigmar-y because it's a wheel.
It's the Great Horned Rat.
Oh, yeah. The whole time.
This is how he's going to ascend.
Just pull the mask off Scooby-Doo style.
Yeah.
It was the Great Horned
She's
Rat.
gonna be like, meddling kids.
So it's all about bringing it back to a story, a cohesive story that we all want to be involved in, that have implications for gameplay, right, around the world. Mm-hmm. That's driven by, and like I said, there's precedent from before. Get us interested in the story because it's compelling, and then get us interested because we have an effect on the story.
Yeah.
Not this, again, here's our 7-book product launch.
Yeah.
Near the end of the edition, we're trying to snake a little bit extra cash out of you before we change everything.
Yeah.
And this is a time to shake it up. A story like this, where we can have, local events that culminate in some effect that's going to affect a grand narrative that is Age of Sigmar based, I think would be just what AOS needs for people to be truly invested in it as not just a game, but as a product line generally.
And a lore, a deep-seated lore. One thing you can say the old world always had in spades over AOS is that the lore mattered and the game could follow it and it could inform it and vice versa. That's something you really can't do now, and I think that's why a lot of the AOS books fall flat.
Yeah.
Is there's just no meaning to it. Now, all of a sudden, if you have this little demi-realm, whatever you want to call it, now all of a sudden these stories matter and give your authors a chance to have an impact.
Yep.
And tell a story where a favored Stormcast guy dies permanently. and doesn't get to come back ever. And now that is a keenly felt loss, which the Stormcast have never had. And so they have this, I've always said that the Stormcast in the lore are stupid, but that stupidity is born of the fact that they can't die. And when you can't die, you're willing to do stupid things to achieve your goals because there's absolutely no responsibility in what you're doing.
Yeah.
There's no consequence.
Yeah.
And when there's no consequence, you'll do whatever it takes.
Uh-huh.
And if you remove that, and I think one of the greatest, funniest, fun books to write would be that first one where the Stormcast figure out that we're not coming back.
Yeah.
And we have to not just charge headlong into the forces of Nurgle, because why not? What's it going to hurt? Okay, no, now all of a sudden, yeah, it's going to hurt. The pain's real and the death is real. That's real blood on your... Anyway. But.
So one thing that... And by making it so small, you also have finite resources, right? So there's going to be fights over resources on all levels, right? Like people need to eat food, right? As far as like... Then this can put like Nurgle and Death factions in contention is that there's only so many bodies.
Yeah.
And so like... Because Nurgle's not going to be able to get in there. Like, you're going to have some main Nurgle character, right? But Nurgle can't touch it.
Yeah.
Right? It's beyond the power of the Chaos Gods to enter, right? Well, everyone still has their magic and stuff because they're still part of those Motor Realms. It's stunted,
Yeah.
So it pushes the different factions into direct conflict because they need the resources in order to get there.
Yeah.
Right? Oh, we need to get to this field and we need to start planting and all that stuff. But then... Oh, here comes the necromancer because, his army's decimated, because they fought, some Oryx, so he needs to go literally kill those people. And then you have him conflict with cities of Sigmar, right? There's so many ways that this pushes conflict and I think a meaningful way. There's desperation. I think killing a main character early, Yeah, this is the Lord Celestin. By the way, they just killed his model. So here's the Lord Celestin. So he's like, let's go into battle. And then he just gets murked by like, I don't know, an arrow through the face and drops dead. And everyone's waiting for him to flash up, but he just lays there. It's almost
lays
comical.
there and screams.
Yeah.
Yeah. And do it with Gabriel Sherhart. You're going to retire him.
Yeah.
Bring him out there.
Right.
Shoot him in the face.
Charging into battle. Boom. And then he just doesn't get up and he doesn't disappear.
And just the imagery of the Osiark Bone Reapers showing up whenever there's a battle.
Oh,
to try to just, because they have to, right now there's the whole section in the lore about, the tithe to the Bone Reapers. And they show up at these settlements and say, you owe us this much bone. So they had to kill 4 people.
Yeah.
Okay. Meaningless 4 people. Who gives a crap?
Yeah.
Meaningless names. Now all of a sudden the Bone Reapers are like, crap, we don't have enough bone to build the stuff we need to go to war.
Yeah.
We got to go wipe out a village. Well, like you said, the cities of Sigmar is going to be a little angry about that.
Yeah.
And they're going to go after them. And then you're going to have people that are mechanically going out after the battle to harvest the bone so that the Bone Reapers don't get it.
Yeah.
And they're going to be mulching it up into, tiny powders so that the Bone Reapers can't use it. They don't want Dad to become the next Centaur Bone Reaper guy.
Right.
So it's just, you all of a sudden you get this opportunity to explain your lore and to have your lore that you've already established matter a little bit.
Yeah.
And because right now it doesn't matter. There's 1,000 settlements. If the Bone Reapers need more bone, they'll just go to those 1,000 settlements and get what they need.
Yeah.
And the impact to them is 0. But when there's a finite set of resources, all of a sudden, when they're scrounging, it's impactful.
Yep.
And it gives you reasons for the cities of Sigmar to march out on a crusade. After a battle has happened, they're going to go secure that battle site.
Yeah.
So that the OBR don't get a foothold in their area.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that makes perfect sense now. Whereas it doesn't in what we have right now, it just doesn't make any fun sense. And you brought up a thing in here about, AOS going grimdark. They've already kind of teased the fact that this new chamber is what did you call it? Ruination?
Ruination chamber.
Yeah, and it's the Stormcast that are really going over the edge.
Yeah.
And so they are kind of embracing this idea of trying to make them a little more mortal and a little more worried about dying,
Yeah.
but go over the edge, go completely, make it to where death is impactful, not just, oh gosh, if I die one more time, I have to go to that ruination chamber. Darn it. I don't want to go there. Those people are stupid. Well, yeah, because they're brain dead.
Yeah.
But
Well, what the going the grimdark, I mean, if you read books, like the actual like novels that are set in AOS, they are brutal. They are violent.
yeah,
It doesn't matter like what the topic is. Like, oh yeah, I totally love goblins. Yeah, it's brutal. It's bloody. It's violent every single time. And these mortal realms are cruel and unforgiving places. But I just don't feel like that's really being fully embraced. And the concept that, I mean, they're tapping into it with the Ruination Chamber, particularly in that sorry, it's not a preview of 4th edition, the trailer for 4th edition.
yeah,
This is the consequence, right?
yeah.
This is, and you know, the thing is, like, they say Sigmar lied, right? Like, Sigmar didn't give you a choice. You died. Nagash was about to judge you, and he sucked you up. He didn't say, hey, do you want to, like, be a hero for me? He was just like, by the way, you're now enslaved in this suit of armor. Like,
For eternity.
yeah.
Yeah.
Your punishment is to be reforged endlessly while you fight for me.
I'd be the guy over there raising my hand going, can I go with that other guy?
Yeah.
The Nagash fellow? I think he's a better option. You know?
Unless he makes you a Nighthawk, because that sucks.
Wow.
Yeah. It's interesting because, like, what you have, it's like the two options are like go to Nagash and be judged in like his punishments for eternity.
Yeah.
Right. Or go work for Sigmar and your punishments for eternity until you lose your mind.
Exactly. The slow erosion of everything I once was.
But
Yay.
the like sort of image they show of the individual from the Ruination Chamber, it's almost got that red aura.
Mm-hmm.
Like, is this on the cusp of allowing Stormcast to fall to chaos? That's something they could work with.
Sure.
I'd be really interested to see them, you know, play with that a little bit.
Oh, replace Beasts of Chaos with former Stormcast Beast. Ooh.
Chaos Eternals.
Yeah, Chaos Eternals. Oh, gross. Anyway, that's terrible.
I mean, it'd be so cool.
Wouldn't it? That's an after
I mean,
thing.
yeah, that is an After Dark thing. It's just like we go down that philosophical rant last time, like with the does the mind and the mind and the soul the same?
Yeah.
Because I wonder what happens. Or it's like, hey, look, your personality is completely gone, so I'm just gonna throw you back to Nagash so he can do whatever he wants with you. I don't know. It's just I don't know where they go with that. Like the consequences of their own storyline, I feel like don't have any clear ends to it.
Well, and I think it's great that they're embracing the idea now that mistakes may have been made and we're going to now start addressing them. And I love it because it gives you a narrative reason to do it. It gives you a fiction reason to do it. Mm-hmm. And honestly, if they start coming out with some books about, you know, the impact of the Stormcast and what it means to just die repeatedly over and over and desperately fixing that cycle, that's something I would probably be down for. But it's just, you know, right now, like that whole chamber sacrosanct we were talking about that's being deprecated and moved, well, going to Legends, it's their whole reason was to try to figure out this problem, this reforging problem. And in all this time, they've made zero headway.
Yep.
And I guess the explanation now is, they're going to go and concentrate on doing that. That's why they're being taken out of the line. Story-wise, well, okay, but if you don't make that have an impact, if they don't have a success coming up in the future, then it's, again, meaningless. So here's your opportunity. And GW, you don't have to pay for this. We'll give you this stuff. You just, credit us on every piece of fiction.
Yeah.
But, here's your opportunity to, A, have a smaller playground where the stories can matter.
Yeah.
B, have this incredible opportunity to have worldwide events as well as your own events that will shape the fate. And you're always talking about, our events will shape the fate of the realms. No, they won't. Nothing's going to shape the fate of the realms. You've made that determination. There's nothing that's going to affect the entire Immortal Realms unless you blow them up again.
Yeah.
But here's your chance to actually make it work. And this little demi-plane that becomes the focus of all existence and everyone's success or failure going forward, now the stories matter. Because you know what? If the denizens of the Silver Tower and Shaman get their butts kicked and literally just get decimated in this demi-plane, when you break it apart and return it to the mortal realms, and there is earth-shattering impact to the entire realm of Shaman, now we're starting to have an impact. And the next time you pull up a new demi-plane with all new players, all new fiction to write, an all new edition to put out. See, I'm also giving you a marketing reason to do this.
There you go.
Now all of a sudden people are going to glom onto that idea of we have 2 to 3 years to make major headway for the realm that we want to see. And all those narrative players, all those events that you're doing start to have their own weight and their own momentum. And people will inherently understand how important it is to get involved in these things.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, you have to start somewhere. And we gave this to you. This is free, 100% free. Like I said, just credit at the beginning and end of every fiction and movie and book.
I mean, we want to care about characters. We want to care about characters that have experiences that we can somewhat associate with. I know it's a fantastic setting.
Sure.
Characters that can live and can die, because that is something that to us has more meaning than, hey, look at this cool new god. And by the way, Marathi sucked a bunch of souls out of Slanesh's, and now she's Marathi Kane.
Yeah.
But is she actually Kane? Well, not according to the hag, right?
We're going to find out.
So all of that, right, I kind of don't care about. There's some interesting stuff in there. Yeah, certainly it can be somewhat compelling story, but it's not something that you want to drive forward. It's not the thing. I mean, of course, you know, you're looking more at model sales, but doesn't sell the narrative aspect of it.
Right.
And this is an opportunity to expand and get a Black Library series set up too, right? That involves this. Something that is serialized that people can actually want to go and read, you know?
Yep.
Everything's been so focused on the Horus Heresy and the Siege of Terra for so long that it does feel like, generally speaking, all the other fiction is kind of fallen to the wayside. I mean,
yeah,
the Dawn of Fire book series, we talked about it many times.
Yeah.
It's garbage.
Yeah.
There's some okay parts in there, but it's just everything's been so focused into that one thing that you haven't turned your heads enough.
Yeah. And, you know, the reason I'm invested in 40K lore is, yes, the galaxy is a huge place and it's billions of worlds, but you've focused on several of those worlds and you've put so many stories centered around just a few of those worlds so that when Cadia fell, it was impactful.
Yes.
It's only one planet among billions, but when that one planet fell, it was impactful to many, many things. And it really did have importance. And there are, you know, handfuls of worlds that are named that their existence or non-existence has a large impact on where the Imperium goes and where chaos goes and where the whole galaxy goes. This is something you're missing in AOS.
Yeah.
Is you've tried to tell me how important Hammerhall Gyra / Hammerhall actually is, but you've never demonstrated that there's a meaningfulness to it.
Yeah.
In any major way. In fact, I'm more invested in Ulfenkarn than I am in Hammerhall.
Oh yeah, all day.
You know, because Ulfenkarn it's a story that I got to take part in. And I got to, I have a key to the city. I just, have to say, but, but you made me care about it.
Oh yeah.
Whereas, Hammerhall, Phoenicia, I don't care. It's just, they can blow away if you want to, that's fine. What does it matter? There's no one there I care about. Just a bunch of Stormcasts that are going to come back no matter what. Okay, fine. Maybe Joe the Cobbler died, but he'll be replaced by Frank the Cobbler. So anyway, that was our fix. That was our problem and our fix for the lore of AOS. Tell us what you think.
Yeah, we'd really be interested in your comments on Discord, comments on any part of the social media, or if you just reach out to Bill, right, directly. Be really interested to see what you all think as to, you know, the issues that we see with the lore and if you have any proposed solutions. But, you know, the concepts are there. I mean, Underworlds is somewhat similar to what we're talking about, but Underworlds has had no actual effect on the mortal realms. Even though it seemed like, yeah, this tournament's going to blah. No, it never does.
Yeah, no.
Never does.
So now all of a sudden you said Underworlds is this pocket realm, and all of a sudden what goes on in Underworlds is very important. And you can fold Warcry into it just as easily.
Yep.
You know, these are little pockets of people that are fighting over meaningful things that are going to affect the city next door.
Yep.
So, yeah.
So, again, tell us your thoughts. We'd be really interested to hear what you have to say. I think we've actually got a pretty exciting show that we're going to be doing next time, Bill.
Yes, we are. We're going to have a guest. It's going to be cool. Because not only does he game, but he cooks.
Yeah, folks. So it's going to be our first interview, actually, since I've been on the podcast.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to this one. This guy plays an important role in Bill's and mine's addiction to
Yes, he does.
board games, mini games, and, well, some damn good pizza.
Yeah.
So stay tuned for next time, folks, because it's going to be a good one. And if you're joining us, we'll see you after dark.
The music in the show is used courtesy of Kevin MacLeod at Incompetech.com and is used under the Creative Commons license. The Rolling Bad podcast itself is protected under the Creative Commons Attribution 4.0 International License. Information for this license can be found at creativecommons.org.